Ask you another question. Our organization is one that on a daily basis supports whatever you want to call it, the free market system of economic choice. It was disturbing to me, and I think to our organization, when the National Education Association looked at a resolution, I believe it passed one of their committees, that called the free market system one of oppression, but didn't call out other totalitarian regimes.
They never do.
What does it say when our educators don't seem to believe in the free market system?
Well, I mean, obviously, I love this question. So I will say that the National Education Association is a very far left group, and so it's not a particular surprise that they're characterizing freedom of the market in that particular way. It also goes back to the conversation we were having earlier about what sort of control parents should have over the education of their own children. There's a reason I send my kids to private school. The notion that capitalism is a system of unfreedom, while government, largesse, is a system of freedom, ignores the fact that somebody actually has to pay the bills. It also ignores the fact that all growth, not some, all growth that has ever happened is a result of capitalism, meaning it is the result of free market transactions in which people consent to services and goods from other people, in which people innovate and make new products. There's a reason that we're not still riding horses and buggies around, and that is because of innovation. It's because of incentive structures. It's because people get to keep the fruit of their own labor and then use those fruits of their own labor in order to invest in things. The true growth in the American economy was never just a question of dollars and cents. It was what you got for those dollars and cents. All of that is driven by entrepreneurs who are willing to take risk. And when you disincentivize risk, you end up disincentivizing people from taking those risks. As we become a much more wage-based society, and that has happened for a large segment of the population, that means that you are incentivizing people to not take those risks. And countries that don't have people taking those risks end up being countries that economically stagnate.
Yeah.
Concise, precise, once again. You know, this whole notion that capitalism is evil and that if one person, gains, another person loses is just absolutely, completely false. Let me give you an example. I'll just give it, let's say there's 10 people in a room, right? And everybody is given $10. Right, so everybody's got $10. Now let's say I go and make something or write a book or make an invention of some kind, and I sell it for, let's say, $2 to everybody, all right? So I've sold it for $2 to everybody. 9 people have bought it. That means it's $18 that come to me. Now, I use my $10, let's say, to invest in something, but let's say that I had some other money besides that $10. So I'm just for the sake, I've now got $28. Everybody else has got $8. Well, the way that it leftist and progressive thinks is there's something wrong with me. I did something evil because I invented something. I did something to make life better. I stole. This wasn't a give and take type of situation. It wasn't reciprocal. I took advantage of them. And that's just absolutely ridiculous, stupid, idiotic, moronic, retarded, what I call people who simmer, S-I-M-R. But that's what they're going to tell you, that inherently I did something wrong. I risked. I had to put forth blood, sweat, equity, and tears, whatever that was, into making this object or making something or producing something. And they didn't get poorer. Those people got better. Yes, they have less money, but now they can go out and do something, and hopefully they can invest or they can decide to do the same thing. That's basically what the difference between capitalism. You are never going to have equal outcomes in capitalism. There are always people that are going to be at the very top, and there's going to be people at the very bottom. Social safety nets, I'm all for that. But the people in the middle, they're the ones that have to, go up and down that ladder of economics and use their experience, use their education, use whatever means necessary to better themselves to get that better job position in terms of wages or salary. Let's hear Anna's response to this.
So those are the ideas that actually, funny enough, have been repeated over and over again in our education system. The idea that, children or students in this country are taught that capitalism is evil is new to me, because I certainly did not get that type of education. Quite the opposite.
Well, Anna, you're young. You're still relatively young. All right, we're all still relatively young. I didn't hear that thing when I was growing up in school and going to middle school and elementary school, middle school, junior high, high school. Even in college, I didn't hear that as much in terms of where capitalism was just looked down upon, and socialism, communism, Marxism were the ones that were, just the everything is just so perfect about their system, or they just didn't do it right. We could do it a whole lot better. So when Anna's talking about, years ago, yeah, absolutely, it wasn't that talked about in the elementary and high school levels or whatever. I'm certainly sure it was being taught about at some of these, obviously, woke and elite, universities on the East and West Coast or whatever. But I think that's kind of disingenuous for Anna to equate, hey, just because I didn't hear about it doesn't mean it wasn't being talked about.
In fact, freedom is an interesting way of framing it, because the fact of the matter is, if you are financially stable, if you are, in the top 10% of this country, for instance, you probably feel incredibly free. You have options, endless options available to you. You probably have a nice nest egg. You have a little bit of that economic freedom. But, there are two different...
I just have to stop. So what if you're in the top 10% or top 20 or top 1%? Why are you trying to imply, under the table that there's something wrong with that? As we said before, there's never going to be in a society equal outcomes of opportunity. You want to have equal opportunity, but the outcomes are never going to be the same. You're always going to have people up and down on that economic, ladder. Some at the bottom, some in the middle, some at the top, some at the very top. I mean, that's just what's going to happen. And to basically use this subterfuge to say, 10% of you, if you have freedom to do anything that you want, you made your money. Hey, you probably, spent the time in education, spent the time gaining experience, spent the time in jobs and whatever to get to that position.
Different things at play. Number one, well, when you look at what is incentivized under capitalism, it's actually led to a lot of our own civil liberties being violated. For instance, data collection that takes place on a regular basis with our own knowledge by these social media companies, by these tech companies who make their money not off of advertising, for instance. They make the majority of their money off of selling our personal information to data brokers. It's part of the reason why there are infinite websites right now, so-called data brokers, that just sell our personal information, including where we live, what our phone number is, where we've worked. I don't really feel very free when I'm terrified about my own safety because there's a company that's literally making money off of selling my personal information.
Okay, I just have to stop it here. So she's basically saying because there's in capitalism, you've got a company that said, hey, you know what, there's some money to be made here. And when people come to these social media sites, or they come to an internet provider, they come to whatever it is out there, a retail entity, and you join, everybody, look, we know that's what happens. You want to join a retail entity, you want to join something for a credit, you want to get a credit card, you want to buy a car, you want to buy a house, you want to get a mortgage like we were talking about, you want to join Facebook or Twitter. Of course you sign up, and nobody reads the fine print. We can't wait to get through the freaking fine print as we're getting carpal tunnel syndrome, okay? Scrolling down on the cursor, trying to get to the accept button so we can get through all the garbage that they're asking about. And yes, is it a problem? Should it be against the law? Hey, that's a whole different another question to ask, whether or not should they be able to sell our information without them letting us know? But in the fine print that's there, we've given away that right. You want to change that? Legislate it. But to equate all of a sudden that, oh my goodness, you got these data collection companies coming up there. Hey, Anna, those data collection companies, they've got to have data entry workers, right, who are making money. Some are making a lot of money who are managers and above. Some are just at the entry-level position making, entry-level money and hoping to work their way up. You want to shut those people down? You want to stop them from working? I mean, somebody took that risk and said, somebody wants this information. Trust me, if nobody wants that information, they're going to stop, investing in data collection companies. I mean, that's just the way it is. So once again, it just goes to show you the difference between those people that believe that we're in a mix of capitalism and a mixture of economy between some socialist aspects and some capitalist aspects, mostly capitalists here. And Anna basically going back and forth saying, so what? Okay, yeah, that entry, that's a whole different area in terms of, right or wrong. Has nothing to do with workers or wages or anything like that, which is what this question was about. Capitalism versus socialism. Let's continue.
So there are certain incentives under capitalism that actually do infringe upon our civil liberties and our rights. So that's one thing that I want to note. But the other thing I want to note is, how free do you feel if you're on the precipice of financial ruin, if you can't afford paying for a medical emergency that you're experiencing? What do you do when you don't have health insurance, which tens of millions of Americans right now don't have because of the exorbitant prices associated with it? How free do you feel if you're a wage worker who has not experienced your real wages increase in literally decades? Wages have not kept up with inflation. So
that is not true. Under the Trump, under President Trump for his 4 years, those wages went up for the first time in decades. You know what? Blacks were making much more money than before. Hispanics were making much more money before. Women were making much more money before. In fact, even teenagers at that time increased. Teenage, employment actually, rose. Hispanic employment rose. Black employment rose. Women, entering into the workforce, rose under the Trump administration. Energy prices, were down low. Wages were going up. I don't know what the heck Anna's talking about. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense at all, what she's saying. Anyways, folks, thanks for watching this part of the debate between Anna and Ben. It was part 7. And you've been watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I've been your guest host. My name is Dr. Nasir. Like, share, and follow us. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Hit that notification bell. And I'll leave you with my final and parting thought, which is, when you're right, you're right. And when you're left, you're wrong. We'll see you again next time, folks. Take care and stay safe.